Good morning. My name is Steve Russell. I am with the Pine Island Oral History Project, and we are fortunate today in having a real pioneer from Pine Island, Nellie Price. And she is going to tell us some stories about growing up here on the island, and I have heard some of those stories, and I think you all will be, you will find them very enjoyable. Thanks for coming, Nellie.
Glad to be here.
Can you tell me how old you are and when you were born?
I was born in 1948, so that puts me 77 years old.
Okay. And can you tell us about your grandparents and parents?
My grandparents on my father's side, John and Isabel Howard, lived in a boathouse in Charlotte Harbor, and they had children. In 1906, they moved to the island. They moved in, built a house made out of fat lighter wood, what's now known as Tortuga Road.
Mm-hmm.
They had, I'm trying to think, they had 6 children. And it was rough back then, naturally. No bridges to the island. The only way by boat or by airplane, which back then they didn't have airplanes. So if you needed any kind of supplies, it was either get in your own boat and go to Punta Gorda, or there was a boat that would go back and forth delivering mail and necessary supplies. But the families that was on the island back then mostly lived off the land. They go out in the woods, hunt gophers, squirrels, quail, mostly fish or seafood, which included oysters and shrimp and clams, scallops, which now you don't see, but there was plenty back then.
Mm-hmm. I understand they may have eaten...
Sir?
I understand they may have eaten gopher tortoises.
Oh, they would eat gophers, yes. Mama, well, this was later on, but yeah, they would take gophers. Now, Mama would sometimes take it and fry it and then put it in a gravy and let it simmer for it to get tender. Or she would cook it sort of like you would chicken and dumplings. The quail, they fried, mostly. The quail, they fried. Curlews, that was a common food on the table back then.
They are called, some people call them ibis now.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
The white birds with the curved beak. Yeah.
Now, they had plenty of fruit, oranges, grapefruit, tangerines, coconut. I don't hear of any now, but we had a fruit called sapodilla. And I'm trying to think of other fruits that you don't see much of now. We had bananas. That was mangoes.
Oh, yeah.
So they had plenty of fruit. Yeah. Then later on, with my grandparents, sometime, I'm not sure the time frame, that my grandfather left. So the children, as they were growing up, they had to help support the family. The boys had to go out fishing and whatever they could to help support. There was a school closer to where Captain Con was back then. It was a one-room house, and Grandma made sure that her children got educated. They only offered up to the 8th grade, no higher grades. And Grandma saw her children went as far as they could. And during that time frame when the children are out trying to help make a living, Daddy and his brother, Uncle Ben, on the beach one time, which we did have a beach back then, and they saw a wild hog. So Daddy told Uncle Ben, he said, I'm going to catch that hog and we'll have some good meat to eat. Well, he went to running and the hog went to running, but Daddy finally grabbed a hold of the tail of the hog, but it didn't take him long to turn loose because that hog is dragging him along the beach, all the shells and all. And when they got home, Grandma said, who have you been in a fight with? And then later, they did get a wild hog, and it was just too big for them to tote home. So for them to go home and tell their mama that they got a hog, Daddy cut one of the ears off to take home to show his mama that they did have a hog, and she did go help them get the hog. So they had good meat there too, which was a treat.
I'm sure.
And then later on, Grandma married Mr. Bird. I never did hear his first name. It was always Mr. Bird. And my grandmother, she did not want to be called Grandma. It was Big Ma.
Oh.
So it was Big Ma and Mr. Bird then. And she was a midwife on the island, which people say, what's a midwife? Because you don't hear of that much nowadays. You go to the hospital or what have you. And so then the girls, I don't know how they met men, but they got married and they moved to other parts of Florida. Like one went to Auburndale, one went to Wauchula, and one went to Miami. The oldest brother of Daddy's went to Miami, and then he later moved to California. So Uncle Ben and Daddy were the only two that really stayed on the island their whole life. Daddy, he started corresponding with a lady in Georgia, and she was living with her aunt and their family. Well, then she later went to South Carolina and met a man and got married. So she wrote a letter back to her cousin asking if there came a letter to her to write and let him know what she had done. Well, Daddy got the letter and he started writing to Lily. That's how they got started.
Lily was your mom.
Lily was my mother.
Yeah.
And she lived in Georgia, in Lyons, Georgia, on a farm. Never been out of the county. So they start corresponding. I wished I had asked more questions because it was never discussed how long they corresponded before Dad popped the question. And so he went to Punta Gorda, got his Model T, and drove to Georgia. There again, I wished I had asked how long did it take, because this was back in 1925. You didn't have roads like you got now. And a Model T or Model A or any vehicle like that didn't go very fast back then. The fastest might have been 30. Anyway, he got up there and went to the farm, and he was standing outside the gate, Mama's inside the gate, and her daddy was out in the field and saw a man talking to his daughter, so he comes and runs the man off. And back then, you had to wait a week, and it had to be posted on outside of the courthouse that you had applied for marriage license. So while they're waiting, Mom's brothers would wait for her to write a letter and would take it to Daddy in another little town where he got a rooming board house. And they would wait for him to read it and correspond, and that's how they corresponded that whole week. Well, that Friday night, she put her clothes in a cotton bag, because back in August, they were picking cotton. And she told her mother what she was going to do, and she had a cousin in Lyons done made arrangements to have a minister there at her house that Saturday. So that Saturday morning, Mama gets up, she goes to the cotton field, starts picking cotton, and her daddy, Grandpa, is loading the cotton up on the buggy or the wagon, because back then they didn't have vehicles, it was horse and buggy. He loaded up the cotton that they'd already picked to take to town to sell. And Daddy, he's hiding in the woods waiting for Grandpa to leave so he can go pick up Mama and go to Lyons to get married.
Right.
So they got to Lyons and got married, and on the way back, they had a flat tire. I don't know where they stopped to get gas back then, because they didn't have motels or gas stations like they do now. And here she is, 18 years old, never left the county, coming down to an island that I imagine sort of looked like a jungle. You get to Punta Gorda, you have to get on the boat to get to the island. Well, everything is new to her. New experience. You don't have the farm. You don't have a farm, the cattle, the hogs. You don't have the vegetables to rely on to eat. Here she is, a total new environment. So I'm sure she had to have been brave.
Oh, of course.
And she'd never seen Daddy until that day he went up there and Grandpa ran him off. That was the first time they ever saw each other. So she had to learn how to cook different too, which she was accustomed cooking on a wood stove. Back then, no indoor plumbing, which she didn't have to begin with. You cooked on a wood stove. Here, you didn't have any heat, which up there she had a fireplace, but sand gnats, mosquitoes, which a lot of people now call them no-see-ums. Mm-hmm. We grew up sand gnats. You had mosquitoes. You didn't have that in Georgia. You had different kind of fruit. Up there they had peaches, apples. They had pecans, walnuts. Down here you don't have it. So you got to learn how to prepare different foods different ways. Then they started having children, and she's still learning how to prepare food. She learned how to get oranges and grate them in a food chopper, which was a more or less like a meat grinder back then. Hand, crank, She would get the oranges and put it through that meat grinder and grind the oranges up. Then she would take fresh coconut and grind that up and make orange marmalade.
Oh.
She'd get the guavas and make jams and jellies. She got sea grapes and made jelly. She even made sea grape pie.
Ooh.
And she went there along the beach. They had a cactus that had we always called it the cactus apple. She would take that. You had to be careful because it was thorny. But she had a long handle fork. She would get that apple, and she made cactus apple jelly.
I've heard of that. I think that's prickly pear cactus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anything like that she learned how to prepare. She started canning. She canned mullet. She fixed like you would salmon. And she would can vegetables if she could get it. But it was mostly canned mullet that she did on the canning, which she still had a sister living on the farm, so that was an advantage. Here she is with fresh fish, fresh fruit, oranges, grapefruit, fresh coconut, bananas. Aunt Noma in Georgia, she still got the vegetables. They got corn, which a cousin had the machinery to do corn meal and grits. So they would do swap. The one that had made the grits and cornmeal, he would, a croaker sack full of the meal and a croaker sack of the grits in exchange for fresh fish, canned fish, all kind of jellies and jams, and the fresh fruit. Aunt Noma, she canned vegetables that Mama didn't get. So there again, they would swap around. So we were fortunate to have grits and meal. There was never a day that went by that there was not fish on the table 3 times a day, morning,
really?
noon, and night.
Really?
We had fish every day. That was the basic food. We were fortunate to have grits that we could have, and we had the meal to make cornbread. We were fortunate some of the other families didn't have that.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
How many brothers and sisters I had? Mom had a total of 7 boys and 3 girls.
Wow.
2 were babies and passed, but they raised 8. So that was 6 boys and 2 girls. There again, she had to learn how to prepare food to feed that many, because that was 10 in the house. Sometimes we did have chickens. She would stretch, maybe she might have 2 eggs, but she might have had some grits left over or rice left over. She would put that in the frying pan and get it warmed up enough, and then crack the eggs to spread out to feed the family.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't throw food away. If you didn't eat it for breakfast, you had it at noon or at night, which very seldom did we have much left over with that many.
Did you have an ice box?
We had an ice box.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy would get the big chunks of ice from the fish house and put in the ice box.
Mm-hmm.
As they were growing, as years went by, they started I'm trying to think. I think there was there was 6 couples that would get together and let me back up a little bit. Talking about the school that was there. In 29, the county decided they would take the school from Pineland and Boquilla and combine it into one. So they built a building on Stringfellow Road, which is now on the property where Church of God of Prophecy is. That became the school. That was in 29. Okay. Later, Mom and Dad, they would get with other couples and they would have church in the home. And in 42, they got with the county to see if they could use the school building for church on Sunday and Thursday night. And the county agreed to it. And they knew a minister that was the district overseer at that time. And they checked with him to see if he would come out and get a church organized. So that's how the church got organized in 42. And to help support, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm sorry. In 45, the county decided they were going to bus all the children into North Fort Myers and Fort Myers. So the property was up for sale. And it went to the courthouse, and they had a silent bidder. And the highest bidder got it, which happened to be Daddy. He was the highest bidder, so they got it. And that became the church. Now, I'm going to back up a little bit with some more of the history of the family or on the island. Back in the 30s, there was people that had orange groves, citrus groves, mango groves, and there was 2 men did not live on the island, but they had property here that they grew vegetables. One was Mr. Gibbs, and his was Pineland, close to where was the Methodist Church, which later Harry Selleck's family parents bought. And then another man had a vegetable farm close to where is now the Church of God of Prophecy, close to that property. And the one that had closer to the church, he would, when they gathered all the vegetables they were going to get, he would let Mama go in behind, like potatoes, after they dug them, and just pick up however many she wanted to feed the family or to share with the neighbors. That was another thing. The Hunts and the Sellecks, they were closer to our family. If one needed help, the other was there to help. We kind of, the 2 families grew up like with my family. Johnny Hunt, some of his was with my older brothers and sister. Harry's family was more with the younger group. So we had both I remember Harry was, one time the family was having to, the parents had to go somewhere and the children was coming to our house, and he put clothes in a bag and come to the house and told my brother Lonnie, he said, "Move over, Lonnie, I'm moving in." That's how close we were. More family than just neighbors. And then later, after the church became organized and got the building, they knew they needed support. They didn't have, people back then didn't have a whole lot of money. So they started having chicken and fish fries for the public. I think we charged $2 a plate back then. And Daddy would go out and catch the mullet. How we got the chicken, there was a fish truck would come from Wrightsville, Georgia, down to the island to get the fish to take back to Georgia to sell. Mm-hmm. So when we were going to have a chicken dinner, the driver would get with Claxton Chicken in Claxton, Georgia, however many boxes of chicken we wanted, and put it on the truck and bring it down to us. That's how we got the chicken. Mm-hmm. So they started having that, and one time there was a man, every time he would come to get a chicken dinner, when it came time to get dessert, I'd go around, he said, "I want watermelon pie." And I'd look at Mama and I said, we don't have watermelon pie. Well, one time we were having chicken dinner and Mama said, "Honey, don't you worry. When he says he wants watermelon pie, don't say anything. Just come." So that Saturday, when it came time, he said he wanted watermelon pie. Well, Mama had made him a watermelon pie. And I went and she gave it to him and I served it to him, and he looked at it and he looked at me and he looked up at Mama and he'd look at the pie. Well, he tried it. He wound up buying the whole pie. He said he never had a watermelon pie, but that was good. How she made it, I don't know. I guess like you would a green tomato pie. Mm-hmm. But anyway. So back to, that was one way of supporting and that's how the church got started, having chicken dinners. Mm-hmm. Well, as time went by, different ministers come in, they continued or they would stop it, and then another minister would come in and start it or stop it. So that's how that got started. But back in the 30s, mm-hmm. that was something else I was trying to think of. Back then, to cross the state line, you had to have a letter stating that you had a job when you left and came to Florida.
Really?
So 5 of my mom's brothers brought their families. 2 of them worked with Mr. Gill that had the Gladiola farm. No, I'm wrong. Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams had the mango.
Okay, that
was Uncle Lloyd and Uncle Elsie. And then Uncle Tommy, Uncle Colin, Uncle Irvin. They worked for Mr. Gill in the Gladiola farm. And then Mama's sister, Aunt Edna, she came. She was a housekeeper for Mr. Adams, mm-hmm. and then later for Harry Stringfellow, mm-hmm. While he was county commissioner. Mm-hmm. That was all back in the 30s and early 40s. I'm trying to think if I've left anything out in that time frame. Oh, there was one time, alligator. The children had gone to school, and Mom had walked out the back door. And to go back in the house, she decided she'd go around to the front door. Well, as she went around the corner of the house, she stopped and she backed up and went and got her a rope and went back and lassoed a 6-foot alligator and tied him to a pine tree. So when Daddy got home, he would see it to believe her that there was an alligator on the doorsteps.
She had to be a pretty brave woman.
There was panthers.
You
You
had seen
plenty
panthers,
of panthers back then.
Right.
Sometimes after you go to bed, you'd hear them right out in the yard. Bobcats would come in from church, and there'd be a bobcat up a pine tree.
You had rattlesnakes too.
And the rattlesnakes, yes, there was plenty. You had to be careful back then, more so now, which it's been a while since I've seen a rattlesnake now. But back then, they were plenty. And as a matter of fact, I don't remember what year it was, but a reporter from the Eagle took a picture of Daddy holding a 6-foot rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
There were plenty back then.
Yeah. I understand there were a lot of fiddler crabs that would
The fiddlers, yes, you could not dodge them.
Yeah.
If you got on the road traveling, which it wasn't, all the roads wasn't paved like they are now, but especially around after you cross Jug Creek Bridge, that curve going there, and Pineland, close to where post office is. Oh my goodness, you drive through there and it was just crunch, crunch. Because it was solid cover with the fiddlers.
Oh.
I haven't seen a fiddler in a long time. As a matter of fact, you could go there at Boquilla and see starfish, seahorse, things like that you don't see anymore.
Yeah.
Scallops.
Yes.
Oh, goodness, we could stay in one spot and pick up a bucket full of scallops and
I've heard that.
nothing flat.
Yep.
Clams. We'd go clam digging, wading around. Things like that is disappearing.
Mm-hmm. In 1966, you were 18 years old. I believe in 1966 you were 18.
When I went to Georgia.
Yes.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I went to Georgia right after I graduated from high school, from North Fort Myers, and I went up there to help a cousin. And while I was up there, went ahead and got a job. And after working up there for a while, getting around, meeting people and what have you, you meet different people, especially when you work with a newspaper. And I met a man, and we got started dating and wound up getting married.
What was his name?
His name was Ernest Price.
You told me some of the things that attracted you to Ernest.
He was the first thing that attracted me. He was a gentleman. The way he acted, the way he talked, the way he dressed. It was attraction. And I don't mean flashy.
Mm-hmm.
It was neat. He was neatly dressed. The way he walked, you can tell people the way they walk sometimes. If they, well, I just don't care. Mm-hmm. Attitude. And then as I started learning to know him more, I felt comfortable being around him. I felt like I could trust him. If I had something bother me, I felt like I could talk to him and he would understand. There was a lot of things. You can't talk to people now like you could then, or to him. And things like that is what really drew my attention to him. Mm-hmm. He was caring, mm-hmm. considerate. Mm-hmm. Even after we got married, for an example, one night it was freezing cold. And we ran out of, we had a furnace. We ran out of oil. And it was like about 2 o'clock in the morning. He got up and he got his all-weather coat and put on top of me. He said, "Don't get out of bed." He put his coat on top of me when he should have put it on to go outside. Things like that. Instead of just grabbing his coat, and he was considerate. Mm-hmm. He put how I felt and whatever. Well, he had promised one time he would take me out to eat for my birthday. And it was on a Friday. And we got home. We both worked. And the neighbor, an elderly man, had been out fishing that day. And he asked Ernest if he brought the fish over, could I cook them and we eat? So Ernest came in. He said, "Babe, I know I told you I would take you out to eat. And I will if you want to. But Mr. Willie's been out fishing and he wanted to know, could we cook them and share with him?" I said, "You go get the fish." But he did not tell Mr. Willie that he would until he checked with me on how I felt about it. Mm-hmm. That's how considerate he was. And even after I told him that, he said, "You're okay with that?" I said, "Yes, we can go out and eat another day." So things like that is what really brought my attention to him. Mm-hmm. Throughout our marriage, and he passed away with bone cancer.
1982.
And then after that, I started taking care of Mama's aunt and what have you until 2004. My brother Cecil went to work one Thursday morning, got to feeling bad, so he left about an hour early. And he kept feeling worse by Friday morning, just before daylight. He walked into Cape Coral Hospital in the ER, gave them all the information they wanted and needed. And within the hour, they had him on life support in IC. He had some type of infection, and they don't know. They said he could have gotten it out of the dirt. He worked with Lee County Electric Company, so they said, with him working the way he did, they don't know how he got it. Anyway, he passed. So I stayed on to help my other brother. We had an orange grove at that time. But after he passed away in July the 18th, then Mr. Charlie come through August the 13th. The hurricane.
Hurricane, yes.
The hurricane. Well, it did do some damage there at the house. But the biggest damage was in the orange grove. It did top some of the trees and take the top of one tree and put it in top of another. Mm. I was out mowing with a push mower trying to get the weeds and what have you cut back. And I noticed the top of that tree moving and I hadn't touched the trunk of it. And I'm looking around and I finally look, and over here the top of that tree is gone, and I'm looking, it's on top of that tree where I was cutting. Oh. The agriculture people came out and inspect, and back then, long about that same time, they were telling everybody they had to cut their citrus trees back because of disease. They didn't tell us we had to cut ours, but he did say that because of the hurricane, that it did damage to the barks, the trunk of the tree, and he said, you won't see results right now, but within 5 years, they're going to be dead. So we were trying to get the grove cleaned up, trying to get some new trees started. But between that, well, after Charlie was Francis, Ivan, and Jeannie, right behind each other. And then after that, trying to get everything, in 5 years, that brother passed away. And we lost all the orange groves and all. So I've been here since then. Mm-hmm. 3 years ago, it got my house. But in between that, mostly what I've been doing is with the church. Doing what I can to help. We have chicken dinners. We have Thanksgiving dinner. We have sunrise service on Easters, Sundays. Serve breakfast afterwards. And have service. So that's been mostly my life here on the island since I got back. Mm-hmm. Between hurricanes.
Sure. Let me ask you, we talked earlier, and you mentioned something I had never heard of before. There used to be big ships that came into Charlotte Harbor.
Yes, at Boca Grande.
Yeah.
Back when I was a teenager or growing up, I could lay in bed at night and hear the ship's horn coming into Boca Grande.
Wow.
Now, what all the ships were for, I don't know at that time. Mm-hmm. I know now they don't go into Boca Grande anymore. Mm-hmm. But back then they did. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And you could lay in bed at night and just hear them.
I'll be darned. Back
then, too, I still say sand gnats and mosquitoes. Mm-hmm. Daddy would make smudge pots. Sometimes just an old rag or something in a pot and set it on fire and where the smoke and set it outside the windows.
Did that work pretty good?
Yeah, it did for a while. And then we had hand pump spray guns to spray around. You didn't have, like I say, you didn't have indoor facility. You didn't have air conditioning. You did good if you had a fan. Mm-hmm. And especially in church, it was this type of fan.
Yeah.
Like you don't see them at funeral homes anymore either, but used to at funeral homes, you would have the hand fan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we would have in churches.
You have a cousin that is, I believe, 97, just about 97 years old. She had an interesting life here, too.
She had my cousin, which was one of Mom's oldest brother, daughter. When they came down in 36 through 40, her dad, Uncle Tommy, and her mama, they worked for Mr. Gill with the Gladiola, and Miss Gill had the post office, and Aunt Betty would help Miss Gill in the post office sometimes. And there was one time, I think Mary Lou, that was my cousin, I think she might have been about 11. Her mama had to go into Fort Myers for something, and Miss Gill needed help. So Miss Gill said, well, just let Mary Lou here. I think she'd be good help to me. So Miss Gill let Mary Lou help her in the post office that day. But she said when they came on Pineland, I believe it was Mr. Ross I'm trying to think who it was that had the mango grove. They were Pineland. Anyway, there was a house, and the walls were tar paper. Now, can you imagine living in a house with just tar paper in the summertime?
No.
On the island? Oh. Well, that's what they had to come to. Oh. No facilities.
Yeah.
They didn't even have an outdoor house.
Really?
They would go to the edge of the woods for the bathroom.
About what year would that have been?
That was between 36 and 40.
Wow.
They came in 36 and they moved to Fort Myers in 1940.
Huh. I don't think many people realize how primitive it was back then.
Right. It was, and then they moved to another house further toward Boquilla, and it was a 3-room house, and there was 8 people living in that house. There was Uncle Tommy, his wife, and 3 children, and 3 other people that had come down from Georgia to work that lived in a 3-room house. And in some of the houses that she described, there was no walls. You just hung sheets to separate. Still no indoor facilities. Mm-hmm. You didn't even have a wash machine or electricity to do a wash machine. They had I remember we had a big cast iron pot that you would build a fire underneath with the water, and you would put your water in there and your soap, put your clothes in there and with a stick and beat the clothes.
You have seen a tremendous amount in the time you have been here.
A big change.
Hard to imagine.
A big change.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And a scrub board, every time I got around it, I'd have skint knuckles.
Oh.
I didn't get the hang of it, and my hand would slip every time.
Oh. Well, Nellie, I can't thank you enough for sharing those amazing stories with us. It was fascinating hearing about your life and what it was like, and And I'm sure the people that will watch this will be equally amazed at what you've seen, what you've done over the years, what Pine Island was and what it's become. And I thank you again for taking the time to share that with us.
Be glad to share it.
Thank you.
And if anybody has relatives, it don't matter if they're young, be sure to ask questions instead of regretting later, I wished I'd asked this, and I wished I'd asked that.
Absolutely.
Get as much information as you can.
Absolutely. That's why we're trying to interview as many people as possible, because once they're gone, the stories are gone forever.
Once they're gone,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I wished I had asked Mom and Dad, but
I think
they're
most
gone
people
now.
are
My
like
brothers and sisters, they're gone. I can't ask them. The older ones. I was thinking of something the other day, and I thought, well, I could, if Julie Bell was alive, I could ask her, or if Jack was alive, I could ask him, but they're all gone.
Yeah.
I'm the only one left.
Wow.
So there's all my information gone.
Yeah. Well, you have managed to save a lot of the history, and you've now shared it with the people of Pine Island and anyone who happens to see this video, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome. Glad to offer it.
Thank you.